Hello everybody, my name is Luke Marr and this is HauteLeMode, and today on HauteLeMode we are going to be talking about the unfortunate downfall of Zac Posen. But before we get any further into the video, if you guys are looking for a channel that talks about fashion in the most fun, sassy, bitchy, analytical way, this is it. So you can go down below, hit the subscribe button, and turn on my post notifications. I mean, like, what do you have to lose? You're already here. And if you guys want to see more from me, you can follow me on Instagram at HauteLeMode. I post some pretty poppin' fashion memes, and Instagram stories always have the fashion news and gossip you need to know. And if you want to see even more from me, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at HauteLeMess. I post more of my personal outfits and opinions, so enjoy. And also, if you're wondering why I'm wearing a sweatshirt, it's Everlane. Honestly, when I can't be like super fashion forward and I'm feeling a little bit lazy and don't want to dress up for the video, at least I'm like saving the planet. Don't judge. So if you guys haven't heard, Zac Posen has shut down his company. Now, so many people were so confused as to what this meant, which is really understandable because, like, honestly, at first I was like, huh? What? I'm confused. So I thought that I should probably explain to you what has happened, what is going on, and what is the future of Zac Posen and his brand. So let's get into it. Zac Posen is a staple of American fashion. Not in the way that Calvin Klein's name wraps itself around big American asses, but in a way that created magic. He is a master of construction, elegance, and evening wear. And so I'm incredibly sad to have to inform some of you that Zac has closed the doors to his atelier and brand. I should probably put a disclaimer out there. I interned for Zac Posen from 2015 to 2016, and I honestly loved it. So let's talk about what happened. On Friday, November 1st, 2019, quite late in the day, Women's Wear Daily, a fashion trade publication if you don't know, posted a story with the title, Zac Posen Shuttering Business. I was shooketh. It really was very firm and unfortunately was also very real. The article went on to describe the situation which led to the closing of said business. So if you haven't realized yet, it's closed. Essentially, Zac and his board of directors had seemingly been looking to find a buyer for the company so that it could make the beautiful clothing that it was known for. But unfortunately, the company couldn't find a buyer in the allotted time that they'd set up to find a buyer, and their previous investors, Ukaipa, which is run by the billionaire Ronald Burke, came to the decision that they wanted to sell their stake. The thing is, Ukaipa actually bought a 50% stake with the well-known rapper Sean Diddy Combs, otherwise known as P. Diddy if you're uncultured, which for the House of Z, which is the official company name, meant that they pretty much would have a very difficult time finding funds to actually, support themselves. This ultimately resulted in the end of the company, unfortunately, and Zac also expressed that he didn't want this to happen because he had to let go his 60 employee staff the same Friday that it was announced to the press, which is like not cute and like sad and depressing. And even the website for Zac Posen's e-commerce site no longer exists. Literally, it's just kaput. And even the recent spring-summer 2020 collection, which would have been a big hit with clients for its big tulle creations, isn't actually going to be sold. Essentially, the company is done, at least for now. And that's kind of the story. Like, that's it. Like, there's nothing else we can do about it. There's nothing else we can say about it. There's nothing else to like talk about. The company couldn't find a buyer. They weren't making a lot of money. That's kind of it. But I feel like maybe we should talk about Zac's journey, some of his best red carpet moments, and what kind of is the future for the brand. So there is a bit of a backstory about Zac you should probably know. Many of you probably know him from his time on Project Runway as a judge alongside Heidi Klum and Nina Garcia, as well as with the help of Tim Gunn. But Zac's history with the fashion industry is very long and also very, very rocky. I do highly recommend watching the documentary House of Z, which highlights his story up until 2016. The documentary has a very good insight into the tumultuous relationship Zac has with the fashion industry, and is available to watch on Netflix, so go for it. I will give you a short synopsis though, just for the sake of the video. Zac grew up in Soho in New York with a lawyer mother and artist father. His father, Stephen Posen, was an artist who worked in multimedia, but actually really made these amazing wall drape fabric sculptures and creations, which meant that Zac was constantly surrounded by the idea of fabric and draping, which was something that he did a lot as a child. Zac eventually went to high school at St. Anne's, which is a renowned artistic school in Brooklyn in New York, where he met some of the children of New York's elite. These children also became some of his muses, and so he essentially started making clothing for himself and for his friends for different events. He eventually took an internship at the Metropolitan Museum of Art working for the Costume Institute, and this to me is where a lot of Zac's love for the idea of construction and creation really comes from. From what I've seen, it seems to have given him the insight into how a garment is truly created, and he really fell in love with that. From there, he went on to study at Central St. Martin's, which was and is the premier fashion school in London. And at that point during the early 2000s, John Galliano and McQueen had famously graduated from there, so it made sense why he wanted to go. But unfortunately, Zac did not finish school. He felt that he was a little bit too far along than many of his other school contemporaries, and so he eventually moved to New York after only completing 2 years of college. But this was not before Naomi Campbell actually saw one of his dresses out and about at a party and decided that she had to meet him and wanted to know all about his work, which led to, you know, a buzz happening about Zac, and so buyers started to knock on his door, and from there he started to build out this fashion company with his mother and sister. They started to have these amazing fashion shows, and many people like Isabella Blow thought that he was the fashion bohemian of America, and at a young age really was getting this insane, amazing press for his quite good work. But eventually as time went on, it seemed like Zac was taking a little bit more interest in himself rather than his actual work from an outside perspective. And also at this point, Sean Diddy Combs, who was heavily into investing and being an entrepreneur at this point, bought a 50% stake in Zac's company. Money was much less of an issue, which was very necessary for the young company, but the growing popularity and the people that were surrounding Zac as a result of these things was growing a bit ugly. The collections, which were once the height of geometric and technical excellence, became so ridiculous and over the top in the worst way possible. And this was also around the time the 2008 recession hit, which was detrimental to the American fashion industry. Everyone from Anna Wintour and Vogue to young designers like Zac were hit hard by the recession. He began to take money from sponsors, and he also felt like the American fashion industry really didn't care much for him. So Zac was really going through it. So eventually his family, who were the backbone of his company, kind of departed. But eventually Zac kind of took a little bit of time away and wanted to come back and present his spring 2012 fashion show, which not many were excited about. Zac really seemed to have rubbed the entirety of the industry the wrong way, but the clothing that he delivered on that collection were actually really amazing. They had the beautiful cuts and the intricate details that he was known for, and it kind of was this renaissance of Zac. The brand showed collections till spring of 2017, but eventually started to only produce lookbooks after that, which to many indicates a severe lack of money. And now here we stand, or sit, I guess, at the almost memorial of the brand. Now, many have criticized me for loving Zac's pieces on red carpets, even though from afar they may look basic. But in reality, ugly trolls on the internet who try to drag me about my love of Zac Posen, there is a reason that Zac Posen has risen to the level that he's risen to. And that was because in reality, he embodied the idea of an American couturier. Let me give a little bit of background on Zac's work here. The reason many in fashion speak so highly of Zac's work is because there is a real craftsmanship involved in his dressmaking. Here's some behind the scenes info if you didn't know. One half of Zac's most recent office was the administrative side of the company. You had the CEO's office, Zac's office, the PR department where I used to work, and the sales department as well. But the other side of that office was the atelier, which also happened to be where all the magic happened. It was a full atelier, probably one of the last ones in New York, which created many of the custom and runway pieces that we see from scratch, which for an American is so incredibly rare that it's a real shame that it's gone. You can find a dime a dozen ateliers throughout the streets of Paris. Literally, you take 3 steps down a little cobblestone street in Paris and a bolt of fabric just whacks you in the face. Like it's very aggressive. There are ateliers everywhere. But for an American to be creating garments in-house in that way without the help of factories, at least for the custom and runway pieces, is incredibly special. I really despise when people call things that aren't haute couture, but to me, Zac's work was as close to haute couture as America has gotten in very recent years. Let's just take a look at one of his red carpet dresses to highlight why it's so special. This tight gown worn by Glenn Close at the Oscars in 2012 is a great example of Zac's work. The bodice is highly intricate. You can see every seam and intricate little fold of the fabric. Many designers would try to hide these blemishes, but Zac instead embraces them. He allows the fabric to create shape in the bodice. Notice how the fabric at the waist creates a tighter waist appearance without the use of different fabrics or a belt. Beyonce could learn a few things. Zac is also never afraid of a woman's body, hence the beautiful seams that again are never hidden, but used as a tool to highlight the wearer's natural curves. The seam then draws itself in as it descends down the gown in order to create that tighter feel at the bottom. Many designers would never want you to see any of this process, as the norm for dressing is usually these clean styles without texture, unless it's embroidered or encrusted. But Zac is like a surgeon. He is precise with his draping, which for many would overwhelm a dress, but his pieces highlight and complement imperfections so that in reality, the imperfections are no longer imperfect. I'll even address the Sandra Oh dress that many said I was too easy on. The image by a Today Show fashion editor, which I can't believe that that's actually a thing, highlights the construction perfectly. This red line on the dress, which apparently was a re-edit by the Today Show people, which like, the Today Show trying to re-edit anything? I'm good, love. But it actually perfectly shows how the pattern pieces created a waist, while also combining the bodice and the skirt. From afar, it is hardly noticeable. It just looks like a beautifully fitted dress, but up close, you can see how the lines help to sculpt not only the dress, but the body of the wearer. It's almost like redrawing a body in order for the dress and the body to seem as if they've always been together. His work is brilliant, and I highly recommend that you look into it on your own. Like, Zac's creations are superb. And seeing as how this is a goodbye to the Zac brand, maybe we should talk about some of his best red carpet moments, as that was one of the biggest reasons we know Zac. From Beyonce to Rihanna to Gwyneth Paltrow to Natalie Portman, many of the biggest stars around the globe have worn his masterpieces. Natalie Portman wore this dress for the 2002 Star Wars premiere. It's a black dress with exaggerated sailor suit-like flap collar, which was the opening look from his fall 2002 collection. It's a beautifully fitted dress with the godet ruffles strategically placed at the bottom of the dress, allowing for the over-the-top movement that Zac really enjoyed early in his career. The gown that Gwyneth Paltrow wore for the 2007 Oscars is insane in the brain. The dress is chiffon and the line work resembles Art Deco styles, which like your fave could never, ever. The bodice has this beautifully gathered chiffon, which must have taken forever to like actually accurately gather chiffon like that, but then also it must have been so time consuming to get the chiffon to look symmetrical. But the bottom of the dress is all seams, which means that it's all strips of fabric sewn together, which must have taken forever, which then fall into these beautiful pleated gussets, which help to create this beautiful fishtail effect. The look was the second to last look from the fall 2007 show, and also note, Zac's fishtail gowns are legendary. Then Oprah wore a custom Zac Posen gown for the 2011 Oscars, which was met with some controversy. An article titled "Fashion's Biggest Poser" went on to describe how Posen didn't actually attend the fitting for Miss Winfrey and instead sent a PR rep, which didn't bode well with the humble image Zac was trying to create at this point in his career. The dress is actually beautiful. I say this because usually when designers use multiple fabrics in a red carpet look, it looks terrible, it's gross, it's tacky, it's just all around awful. But Zac did his signature draping on that chromatic gray bust, and then at the waist, it gets this shimmery little skirt. Now the thing is, this only works because the skirt at the top is the gray that matches the bust. But as it goes down, it ombres into this beautiful lighter gray, and it's just perfect. It's really like color matching. It taste buds. That's all I have to say. Not an ensemble bullshit in sight. And this dress really makes me think about how lackluster red carpets are going to be in the future, because I'm going to die. In 2014, Rihanna wore 2 dresses by Zac for her first ever Diamond Ball, which is her charity foundation. Zac and Rihanna have a relationship that goes way back, all the way to 2006, as he was one of the first designers to ever really dress her as a serious artist and musician. He even dressed her for her first Grammys win. That warms even my cold, dead little fashion heart. Zac was originally only going to make a ball gown for Rihanna's first ever Diamond Ball, but when she came for her first fitting and saw this amazing rose colored off-the-shoulder gown. She fell in love with it, and Zac and his team essentially just had the dress remade to fit her. This look was actually a look from the fall 2014 show, and Zac also made a gigantic midnight blue ball gown for Rihanna as well, which was the finale look from the Resort 2015 collection. Zac also has spoken about how Rihanna and him are very collaborative when working together. This insane ball gown is a usual Zac Posen piece in a simple and very elegant midnight blue, but he wanted to spice it up a bit, so he added these intricate little tuxedo tails which come to the front of the dress and create these like cones that help to actually highlight Rihanna's waist as well. To me, it's a real testament to Posen's ability to work with clients and also his really interesting relationship with Rihanna, which I want to know more about. Zac also always shows out for the Met Gala, and the more and more I think about it, like honestly, it's giving me such anxiety for this upcoming May, because like, what are we gonna do? Look at Christian Siriano and Brandon Maxwell. Two gowns from the 2014 Met Gala actually are like etched in my memory for forever. The first was worn by the model Liu Wen, and it's a dress from the fall 2014 collection and has these gigantic godets, which are these triangular inserts that essentially help to create this voluminous and structured skirt. The fall 2014 collection actually was an ode to Charles James, who I should probably do a video about, but also that whole Met Gala was based on Charles James's creations. Zac also often spoke about how Charles James was a real inspiration for him because his construction was so amazing. And so he utilized the fall 2014 collection as a vehicle to express his love for him, resulting in this insane gown. The other dress was worn by Dita Von Teese, who is the famed burlesque dancer. It's a tight-fitted nude gown that has the signature line work of Zac. But to me, the best part is the red piping that cheekily peeps out at all different places from the back to the breast line. Oh, it's so hot. The dress really stuns when it creates a fishtail with the same godets as Liu Wen's dress. The bottom half of the fishtail is in the same red as the piping, which just draws your eye there as well. And when you look at the gown, you really can see that Zac is a perfectionist. Like, he doesn't let anything out of that studio unless it actually is insane. Insanely amazing, I mean. Then there was probably Zac's most famous dress, which was the light up Claire Danes dress from the 2016 Met Gala. This one is special for me because I was there still interning at the company, and they asked me to serve Claire Danes champagne while she was like getting ready, and like, that's etched in my memory because her hot ass husband, pictured here, said hello to me, and he was super nice, and I have been in love ever since. The dress was a huge hit because of its technical capabilities, seeing as how it lit up, which went in with a theme that was Manus Ex Machina, which explored the handwork and technological advances in fashion throughout the ages. When the lights went off, the dress with 30 different battery packs piped the dress in light. And like, I don't know if you understand, but like, imagine coming up with an idea that pipes a dress in light. Like, you're creating something that isn't even like there. My mind is just constantly blown with his work. Like, it really is so creative, over the top, technologically advanced, and your faves could never. I just want to reiterate. It sparkled and shone and was the perfect dress for that evening. While many tried to be their best Judy Jetson hookah, Zac crafted the gown with care. And I mean, like, the drapes are so stunning, but also channeled the future as he has done with his brand for the past few years. I mean, if you have not recognized that Zac has pushed not only lookbooks, but also his clothing to be advanced and taking on technology and trying to be something new, you've been missing out. This was like the Zac Posen dress. And I mean, if you put it next to that Carolina Kokova Marchesa dress from the same year that lit up because of tweets, you can see why Zac is far more talented. Finally, the most recent Met Gala themed around the idea of camp led to Zac creating some of the most stunning pieces to date. Deepika Padukone wore one of the most beautiful architectural sculptural gowns in a stunning pink fabric with these very subtle, beautiful silver embroideries. Jordan Dunn wore a full 3D printed dress that resembled gigantic shiny flower petals. Nina Dobrev wore a 3D printed gown that looked like a perfect ice sculpture had permanently molded around her body. And Julia Garner showed up looking like a gold and silver goddess in a stunning pleated gown. Again, your faves Could never. Those are the Zac Posen looks to know, but also I've really only scraped the surface of the experience. In reality, I think it's very obvious to see that the clothing that Zac makes was never really making much money. I mean, even Christian Dior himself didn't pay the rent based on dresses alone. Zac did go on to develop multiple lines like Z-Spoke, Zac Posen, and Truly Zac Posen that all never helped him go mainstream, unfortunately. And I think that that's where the problem lies. When you look at some of the most financially successful brands, yes, they make beautiful clothing, but what makes them money is accessories, makeup, and perfume. That's just the reality of how fashion works. And in terms of Western fashion, that's kind of always how it's worked. Zac never made bags that were beloved or became it items. He never had his own makeup brand, only collaborations, and I don't think he ever had a scent either. Without those, no ball gown is ever going to make you that much money. Zac could have supplemented the company's losses with the money from his time on Project Runway, or even from him being the creative director of Brooks Brothers women's wear. But nonetheless, it's not nearly enough to keep a company of that scale afloat. I'd also like to note that had Zac played the fashion game, as we call it, aka he had worked for many of the biggest houses throughout the globe, I think maybe we'd see him as a creative director of a brand currently. But alas, people have been talking about Zac Posen going to Dior. I don't think that that's gonna happen. I could see him at either Dior or Balenciaga because of the brand's design heritage, but considering that both have become major players in the commercial fashion world, and I mean, like, think about it, Balenciaga is known for its sock shoes, like, that's an issue. I don't really think that clothing generates much sales for them either. I can't see them taking him in or on. And I don't think that he would be able to create product that is true to his vision while also designing amazing collections. The more and more I think about it, that's what makes a fashion brand money. I might not like Maria Grazia at Dior or Nicolas Ghesquier at Louis Vuitton, but the two of them are really good at making products that sells to the mass market. And unless you're also good at doing that, you ain't gonna get the job. And if you do get the job, you ain't gonna have it for long. Ask Raf Simons. In reality, I don't know what Zac will do. From what I've read, he will stay on at Brooks Brothers as the creative director of women's wear, but for now, Zac Posen as a brand is over. And well, maybe this is the beginning of the fashion bubble bursting. Because if there's one thing that I've noticed from looking at Zac's story, it's that Zac has always been a precursor for the modern fashion industry. So those are all my thoughts on the Zac Posen brand. In reality, I love Zac. I love what he stands for and I love his work, but I also think at a certain point, unless you're creating things that are making money, you can't run a brand. And I think that's kind of where we're going in terms of fashion today. You need to have product that sells, and I feel like maybe Zac succumbed to the fashion industry monster of listening to too many people, but in reality, who knows? I'd love to hear all of your guys' opinions in the comments down below. I know it's kind of a shock, and I know a lot of people weren't really understanding why this was happening, but in reality, when you don't have the money, you don't have the money. And it's a sad day, I think, for American fashion. I just want to say thank you to Zac and his team and everybody that surrounded him, because they were always so supportive of me, even to this day. And so to me, I felt like I really had a family working there. Like, it was people that really cared genuinely about me, and I cared genuinely about them. So thank you to all of those people who I do love and care for. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video, and TTYL.